So I have a couple of these bowls that when I first started learning how to core, I accidentally broke through the bottom of them. I learned pretty quick that you shouldn't turn recesses when you go to core stuff, because then it makes it hard to figure out where the thin part of the recess is going to be. So today I'm going to show you how I'm going to turn this mistake into a pedestal bowl. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to use the recess and I'm going to get it mounted on my chuck on the lathe, and then we're going to see how we can figure out how to open up the hole in the bottom to accept a spindle turning for the pedestal base. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I got my tool rest set up. I want to open the hole up. I'm just going to use a bowl gouge for this, and when I get close to where the chuck is going to be, I'll just be careful not to go all the way through and hit my chuck jaws. Okay, so I uncovered all the jaws. I just got to make it a little bit more square. Alright, so that's about all that I'm going to be able to do with the bowl gouge for this. So I'm going to actually come in with my skew very carefully as just as a scraper to try and square that up completely so that when I glue the tenon in, it won't have a visible seam. Alright, so now that I have the walls of this pretty much straight, I think I want to next do is see if we can mount this in the other way. Yeah, that's spinning pretty true. So next thing I want to do is I want to just clean up this, because I did seal this to let it dry without cracking, so I need to get the wax off of the inside of that recess, because that's where I'm actually going to glue in the tenon for the pedestal base. So I'm just going to take a square scraper, so I just take a square scraper and square it up and try to get it lined up with the other one, which I could take just a little bit more off. Just one more pass should get me to where I need to be. Alright, so I think I should be good there. Then I want to come in with my bowl gouge and just flatten this out. Alright, so now I'm just going to use a negative rake scraper just to come in and make sure that that's completely flat. Alright, so for now, that's all I'm going to do with the bowl. I gotta get a spindle blank mounted on here. And get that turned, and then we'll get this glued onto it. Alright, so this spindle blank is 6x6x6. The first thing I want to do is, as usual, use a straight edge. Try my best to find the center. On both ends. Okay. Then I want to come in with my spur center and set it into one side and then get this mounted between centers. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is come in with my roughing gouge and get this thing turned around. Alright, so now that I have this rounded out, the next thing I want to do is come in and cut a tenon. I'm going to make this side the side that the bowl attaches to, and this side will be the base. So the first thing I wanted to do is start just doing a peeling cut. So now that I have it squared off, and now I want to just do little peeling cuts. I have a set of calipers set to the diameter that I need. So we'll shut the lathe off, give it a measurement. Yeah, I still got a little bit more to take off, probably like a ½ inch. So we'll stop it and give it another measurement. Okay, so that's the tenon that's going to go inside that recess piece that I cut out on the bowl. And this side I am actually going to cut a tenon that I'll be able to mount into my chuck. So I want to get measurement of my chuck jaws. So I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom side. Take one pass in to square it up. We'll stop just shy of my live center, and now I'm going to take a pass in to start making the tenon for the chuck. Stop it and give it a measurement. That'll work. Just got to make it just a tiny bit deeper. Alright, so that gives me a mounting spot for my chuck. So we're going to get this thing off the centers. And then I'll get this mounted on the chuck for you. Alright, so the last thing that I want to do right now is get this bowl glued on to the base, and then once it's dry I will just finish turning everything on the lathe. So what I want to do is just generously apply some glue around where the tenon is. And because the bottom of the bowl is going to be touching this part too, we're going to put some glue on that. Okay. Then I'm going to take my bowl, make sure there's no dust in between. And then all I have left is, this is a piece of scrap plywood I got lying around that'll span the bowl. I just use my tailstock to apply some pressure to make sure everything is good, and let this sit overnight to dry. Alright, so now that everything is all set up with the glue, the next thing I want to do is start cleaning up the inside of the bowl. So I'm going to be using a bowl gouge for this. So now I got the rim somewhat taken care of. I'm going to back the tailstock out. I had the tailstock in because I wanted to give a little extra support since it was extending a little bit off of the lathe with the with the pedestal glued to the bottom of it. Alright, so I got the middle pretty much well shaped. I'm going to actually bring the tailstock back up. I left that little nub on just so I can shape the outside and have a little extra support to keep everything on the lathe. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is to even out the outside of the bowl and get that shaped, and then I will move into shaping the pedestal. Alright, so now that I have the bowl all shaped out, the next thing I want to do is come in and I want to shape out the pedestal for the bowl. So I'm going to use a spindle gouge for this one. Okay, so now that the epoxy is dried overnight, all that I got left is to sand it down and then make a part somewhere here to park the base off of the chuck.
So I cut a groove directly in the glue joint, and
and I filled it in with a 2-part epoxy that I mixed some copper powder in with. Alright, so now that I have the pedestal all sanded up, I just need to work on sanding the bowl itself down. Alright, so that's it for the sanding. All I have left to do is get this parted off the lathe. So I'm just going to come in with my parting tool. I'm not going to part all the way through. I'll probably cut a bunch of it off with a handsaw. Alright, so that's about as far as I'm going to go with the parting tool, and I'll just come in with one of my hand saws to finish the cut through. Alright, so all I have left to do is to deal with the nub from where I cut it off. I'm just going to use my Fredome flex shaft tool and a pretty aggressive carbide bit to cut through this. Okay, so that takes care of that, and then just a little bit of sanding with my drill, and this will be all done. Okay, so it's all sanded and ready to get finished. I'm just going to spray a water-based lacquer on this one. So here's finished bowl. It's got a couple coats of a water-based lacquer that's semi-gloss. As you can see, it's got the centerpiece of a different type of wood with an interesting grain, just to kind of hide the fact that I accidentally blew through the bottom of the bowl. Then it's got the short base with the feature ring that I used the mixture of 2-part epoxy and a copper powder.